What is going on, guys? My name is Louis, and as you can see, we are going to have a lot of fun today. Guys, I'm pretty sure that this deck will be totally overpowered in the next couple of weeks. It works so well, and I used it in this Grand Challenge, and I will show you some of the games of it. And despite that it don't have any high damage cards like the Skeleton Army or the Inferno Tower, it's very good at defense. Of course, the main attacking card in this deck is the HOG. But because all of your other cards is so cheap, you can easily use the lightning spell and don't risk that much. A big mistake that a lot of people do with the HOG is that they will go for an attack in the first couple of seconds. I prefer to use, for example, the Ice Wizard in the beginning, because it's a defensive card, so if your enemy chooses to rush you or have a very good counter for your HOG, you don't lose that much. And it's always a good thing that your enemy make the first move, because then you know a little bit of what's going to happen, and of course when you know what's going to happen, you can suit your game so it fits into the play. For example, if your enemy is using a golem, you know it costs 8 elixir, which means that he probably only have 2 elixir left. You can easily go for a rush with the HOG. But if your enemy, for example, will use a tombstone, it's not that good play to use the HOG, because no matter what you're going to do, you're probably going to lose at least 1 elixir, because the tombstone costs 3 and the HOG costs 4. Pretty simple math. So guys, it's always a good thing to know what's coming up. Well, at this point in the game, we know that our enemy have the Skeleton Army, which is a great counter for the HOG. And as far as we can see, he probably don't have anything else. Of course, the giant minion can work, but the Skeleton Army is our main problem here. So what we want to do is to use the HOG and the log at the same time. But as you guys can see, in this situation, I placed my cannon way far to the right, which means that the giant will not attack the cannon but the tower. I choose to use the log, so it will push the giant to the right, and the giant will go for the cannon instead of the tower. Of course, I would prefer to use the log for the Skeleton Army, and unfortunately for me, I wasn't smart enough at this moment, which means that I choose to use the HOG, besides that I know that he have the Skeleton Army inside his card rotation, which means that I lost 4 elixir for absolutely no reason. The right play in this situation would be to just place the princess in the back and wait for him to bring the next attack, or just be patient and cycle through to my lock so I could use my lock and the HOG at the same time. But as we all know, it's pretty hard to make the right decision every single time you play Clash Royale. So luckily for me, I still was in the lead at this moment, besides that I made a 4 elixir mistake, and throwing the lock here is also a pretty bad move, but in fact it turned out to be pretty good because it gave me time so I could deal with the graveyard spell. A pretty lucky move, but at this moment I figure out that I probably have to use the lightning spell in the right situations so I can take out his tower with the lightning spell and not the HOG. The good thing about the lightning spell is that you are almost completely sure that you will make some damage to the tower. If you're using a HOG, you can't be sure that it will reach the tower, so the worst case scenario will be to lose 4 elixir and gain nothing. But as the game turns out, I was lucky enough so I had elixir enough to use my HOG and my lock at the same time, which means that he can't use his Skeleton Army on me, and I could deal the last damage with the lightning spell. So we got a pretty great win here. Playing against the graveyard spell is probably the weakest point of this deck, because you don't have any fast attacking troops like goblins or archers. Well, as you guys can see, we managed to make 10 wins without any losses, which is pretty good in a Grand Challenge. So we just keep going here, and hopefully we can make it a clean sheet. And as I said before, I like using the Ice Wizard in the beginning, because it's a defensive card, but you can also use it in an offensive mode. It have a lot of health points, so it's a small tank that you can use if you have, for example, the HOG or the giant minion. But in this case I have none of those, so all I really can do is to use the princess, and always use the princess in the opposite side than your starting troop, because if you use the princess in the same side, you can get a lot of trouble if your enemy have a fireball or a lock. So in that situation you will lose 3 elixir and gain nothing. In this case my princess is still alive, so he has to take care of her at some point, I could also place my HOG Rider in the left lane, but I choose to use the HOG Rider in the same lane as the princess, because that my princess had one shot fired and he didn't do anything, so I didn't think that he had a lock, for example. In this situation it was a stupid move, but it turns out to be even because he used his Inferno Tower. So at this moment we're just gonna ignore the archers and we're gonna lean back and get a little bit of elixir. So the game is pretty much reset at this moment. I got my Ice Wizard back in business and I support her with the Ice Spirit. It's a little bit risky, but I have to do something, and in this case I don't really have anything to cycle, so all I do is place in troops and I wait for my move. And as you can see, I use the lightning spell and I get great value for it. I killed all of his troops, which was totally 5 elixir. So 1 elixir for dealing around 350 damage to the tower. It's pretty good. And guys, what's happened next is pretty important. He is going to attack with his HOG Rider, and I quickly put my cannon in the right position so both towers can attack it. But he will use his fireball, which means that next time I place my cannon, I have to place my cannon 4 tiles away from the left tower and 2 tiles up, so the HOG Rider will still go for the cannon, but the fireball can reach the cannon and the tower at the same time. Personally, I think that what is making the difference between the great and the good players is that the great players know the enemy card rotation, and the good players just play the same game over and over again without really knowing what's going to happen in the next couple of seconds. And as you can see, I'm only a good player because I made exactly the same mistake as I did before. I placed my cannon in a position where he can use his fireball to hit the cannon and the tower at the same time. And to be honest, I make the mistake here again, which is, it's disgraceful and I feel so bad talking about it. But the good thing about making YouTube videos is that I have to watch my games over and over again, and I can see which kind of mistakes that I make. And I can remember when I played this game, I thought, oh my god, he's just using the fireball all the time over and over again. But of course you do that, I keep making the same mistake, so of course he's keep hitting me with this fireball. And at this moment he knows that he can take the tower out without using the HOG Rider, so all he's really going to do at this moment is just defending, and I can't really reach his tower with my HOG Rider. So he will just use the direct damage to kill the tower, and I will just lead back and wait for it. I think he's just trolling me a little bit here by using his HOG Rider, but it doesn't do any different. He's throwing the fireball and he's throwing the lock, and it will make him win. So 10 wins, 1 lose. I should still be able to make the 12th win without any problem. But let's jump into the next game, and I hope that we can manage to win this one, because if I lose the next 2 games, it's a disaster and I will feel so bad, so I don't think I can sleep tonight if that happens. But well guys, here in the next game, I don't have the Ice Wizard in the beginning, so I will use my Ice Spirit and my HOG Rider at the same time. The trick is to place the Ice Spirit a little before the HOG Rider. The Ice Spirit will push the HOG Rider into the tower, so if your enemy is placing a tombstone or a cannon in the right position, you know, so it can be hit from the left tower and the right tower at the same time, the Ice Spirit will push the HOG Rider to the tower and it will completely ignore your enemy's defensive building. So meanwhile I hit max elixir and I have to do something, so I will just keep placing cards and wait for my enemy to make his move. And when he finally brings his HOG Rider, I don't really have the reaction time to place my cannon at the right position. The problem here is again that my enemy have the graveyard spell, and I don't really have a perfect counter for that. But my Mega Minion and my Lock did a great job holding these small skeletons away from the tower. And my Mega Minion is still flying, so I can use my Mega Minion and my HOG Rider to make a pretty strong push. And I think he didn't see that HOG Rider coming, because if he did, he would probably use his tombstone. And I think his plan was just to use his archers to kill my Mega Minion. But luckily for me, this guy was putting the cards too fast at the table. And I actually think one of the most important things, besides knowing your enemy's card rotation, is not placing the cards too fast. In this case, my enemy used his archers way too quickly. If he just waited a little bit more, he had time to see that my HOG Rider was coming and he could play his tombstone. And I think the reason why he didn't like to play his tombstone was because that the Mega Minion will probably get 1 swing at the tombstone. So in his mind he think, if I play the tombstone I will probably lose 3 elixir, and if I play the archers I will kill the Mega Minion and I don't lose any elixir. But sometimes you have to accept that defending will cost you elixir. And because he didn't like to use 3 elixir, he probably lost this game. At this moment I know that my lightning spell and my lock can kill the right tower, and therefore I will start tagging the left tower. The reason why I don't kill the right tower immediately is because it will activate the king tower. At this moment he uses graveyard spell, which means that he only have one attacking troop left, which is the HOG, and I still have my ice wizard,